The bright green vessel descended silently through Earth's atmosphere, cloaked from human detection systems. Inside, Lena adjusted the controls with her six-fingered hands, her luminous purple eyes fixed on the display, showing a small research station nestled in a remote mountain valley. She was the last alien in existence. Her home planet had been destroyed decades ago, consumed by its dying sun. Since then, Lena had wandered the cosmos alone, carrying the memories and knowledge of her entire civilization. Her ship contained the last remnants of Talian culture, technology, and history. 3 months ago, while passing through this solar system, she had detected something impossible, a signal pattern that matched Talian communication frequencies. The source, Earth, a planet she had previously dismissed as barely entering its technological adolescence. The signal had led her to this specific location. To him, Dr. Jun Park worked late into the night, as usual. The other scientists had long since gone to bed, but Jun remained in the lab, adjusting parameters on his experimental quantum communication array. His superiors at the Global Science Initiative believed he was working on more efficient data transmission technologies. They didn't know that Jun was actually searching for signals from beyond Earth. Jun rubbed his tired eyes and sipped cold coffee. At 34, he had already established himself as one of Earth's most brilliant minds in xenobiology and communication theory, though his theories about potential alien communication had made him something of an outcast in scientific circles. This remote posting was both punishment and opportunity, away from academic politics, but with freedom to pursue his more questionable research. A soft beep from his console startled him. The signal he had been broadcasting for months had received a response. Lena observed the human through her ship's advanced sensors. For 92 days, she had studied him, learning his language, his habits, his remarkable intellect. Unlike most humans, whose minds seemed cluttered with social distractions, this one possessed a clarity of thought that reminded her of Talian philosophers. His work on theoretical alien biology had come surprisingly close to accurately describing several species she had encountered, including her own. Most intriguing was his communication experiment. By sheer accident, he had created a device that mimicked the quantum entanglement principles Talians had used for interstellar communication. It was primitive, but it worked, and it had called to her across the void. Lena made her decision. After years of solitude, perhaps it was time to reveal herself to another intelligent being. This human seemed uniquely prepared to handle first contact. Jun's laboratory lights flickered. His equipment readings spiked wildly before settling into patterns he had never seen before. Outside, a soft blue glow filtered through the windows. "What the hell?" he whispered, moving cautiously to look outside. A small craft hovered silently above the research station's courtyard. It emitted a gentle blue light that seemed to bend around its edges, making its exact shape difficult to perceive. As Jun watched, a section of the craft's underside opened, and a ramp extended to the ground. Jun's heart raced. His first instinct was to call security, wake the other scientists. But something stopped him. This moment, this impossible moment, was what he had worked toward his entire career. He grabbed a small camera, his tablet, and with shaking hands, headed outside. The mountain air was crisp and cold. Jun's breath formed small clouds as he approached the strange craft. The blue light washed over him, giving everything an otherworldly appearance. Then she appeared at the top of the ramp. Lena had chosen a form that would be least frightening to the human. Still, she couldn't completely disguise her alien nature. She stood slightly taller than the average human female, with proportions that seemed just slightly wrong. Her skin had a subtle violet undertone, and her eyes, large, almond-shaped, and entirely purple without visible whites or pupils, were impossible to hide. Jun stopped, frozen in place. Despite years of theoretical preparation for this moment, the reality of standing before an actual alien being overwhelmed him. His scientific mind noted details automatically: the strange proportions, the unusual coloration, the graceful way she moved. But emotionally, he wavered between terror and awe. You're real, he managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. Lena had practiced human speech for months, studying recordings from the research station's communications. I am Lena, she said carefully, her voice melodious, but with strange inflections. Last of the Talians. I receive your signal. My signal. June's scientific curiosity began to override his fear. The quantum array actually worked. Yes. By accident, you created something similar to how my people communicated. She descended the ramp slowly, giving him time to adjust to her presence. Your mind is remarkable, different from other humans. June found himself moving closer, scientific fascination winning over caution. How long have you been watching us? Watching me. 92 of your days, Lena answered honestly. I needed to understand before making contact. A sudden gust of wind made June shiver. Lena noticed immediately. You are cold. We should continue inside. She gestured toward the lab. June hesitated only briefly before nodding. Okay. Yes. That makes sense. A nervous laugh escaped him. I have so many questions. As do I, Lena replied, following him toward the building. You are the first human I have spoken to. And you're the first alien anyone on Earth has met. At least officially. Joan held the door open for her, an automatic courtesy that made Lena tilt her head with curiosity. Inside the lab, under the bright lights, they studied each other more openly. June noticed intricate patterns on her skin that hadn't been visible in the blue light outside. Lena observed the rapid changes in his facial expressions, fascinated by how emotions displayed so clearly on human faces. I am the last of my kind, Lena said finally, breaking the silence. Our sun expanded unexpectedly. Few escaped. None remained but me. The simple tragedy of her statement hit June hard. I'm sorry, he said quietly. Lena moved toward his quantum array, examining it with evident interest. This device, it called to me across space. Of all humans, you alone created something that spoke in a language I could understand. June watched her, suddenly aware that this moment would forever divide his life into before and after. Everything would change now. Everything. Why me? He asked. Why reveal yourself to me? Lena turned to face him, her purple eyes seeming to look beyond his physical form. Because, she said simply, of all the minds I have observed on this planet, yours shines the brightest. The early morning sunlight streamed through the laboratory windows as June carefully documented his latest conversation with Lena. For 2 weeks now, they had spent every night together in his lab, away from the other scientists. The isolation of the research station had become their advantage. The few other researchers were focused on their own projects and rarely questioned June's sudden request for privacy in the East Wing. Lena sat across from him, her slender fingers manipulating a small device that projected three-dimensional symbols into the air between them. She had created this translation tool to help bridge the gap between Talian concepts and human language. Your word lonely is inadequate, she explained, adjusting the glowing symbols. In Talian understanding, to be the last of one's kind is not just emotional isolation. It is, she paused, searching for words. It is a biological emptiness, a severing of collective consciousness. June nodded, typing notes. His initial fear had faded into fascination. Every conversation with Lena revealed new aspects of her species, a civilization that had traveled between stars when humans were still figuring out agriculture. How long have you been alone? He asked. 73 Earth years, Lena replied. I was young when our planet died. Only 17 ships escaped. We scattered across the galaxy, maintaining communication through quantum networks. But one by one, the signals stopped. What happened to them? Various fates. Mechanical failures, hostile encounters, resource depletion. Her purple eyes dimmed slightly. The last signal ended 12 years ago. My sister's ship. June set his tablet down. I can't imagine surviving that kind of loss. Talians are adaptable, Lena said simply, though her voice carried an undercurrent of pain. We evolved to endure. Our bodies can hibernate for decades. Our minds can disconnect from grief through meditation techniques. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at the mountains. But adaptation has limits. Eventually, I needed connection again. That's when I began searching inhabited worlds. And found us, June finished. Found you, she corrected, turning back to him. Humans as a species are interesting but chaotic. You, however, she tilted her head, studying him. Your mind works differently. More. Talion. Their conversation was interrupted by a knock at the laboratory door. Lena instantly activated her personal cloaking device, vanishing from human sight. June opened the door to find Dr. Mina Kim, the station's director, looking concerned. June, you've been locked in here for 2 weeks. The other researchers are talking. What's going on? He had prepared for this. Breakthrough in the quantum communication project. I'm at a critical stage. Can't risk contamination or interruption. Mina frowned. You need to share progress reports. We're a team here. Of course, I'll have preliminary findings by next week. He smiled reassuringly. Trust me, this is big. After she left, Lena reappeared. She is suspicious. She's just doing her job, Jun replied. But you're right, we need a better solution. I can't keep you secret forever. Revealing my presence to your governments would be unwise, Lena said. I have observed your species' history. First contact scenarios rarely favor the visitor. June couldn't argue with that. Then we need a better place to work, somewhere private. That evening, they moved to June's small cabin at the edge of the research compound. The modest living quarters offered less advanced equipment but more privacy. Lena brought a metal case from her ship, opening it to reveal technology beyond June's comprehension. Talion learning interfaces, she explained. They will help me understand your language more completely. Can I use them too? June asked eagerly. To learn about your civilization. Lena hesitated. These weren't designed for human physiology. But they could be adapted, right? She considered him thoughtfully. Perhaps, with modifications. She removed a small device from the case. This is the simplest tool. It transfers basic knowledge through neural patterns. June watched as she adjusted settings on the sleek object. Is it safe? I will ensure it is, she said. But understand, this connection goes both ways. I will learn from you as you learn from me. The implication was clear. This would create an unprecedented intimacy between them. A sharing of minds across species barriers. I'm ready, June said without hesitation. Lena placed the device against his temple. A warm sensation spread through his mind, followed by flashes of images and concepts. Vast crystal cities on a purple-hued planet. Spacecraft that seemed to bend reality around them. Mathematical equations that shifted and evolved like living things. When it ended, Jun gasped, overwhelmed by the flood of alien knowledge. That was incredible. You received only fragments, Lena said, her voice softer than before. Your mind captured what it could understand. And what did you learn from me? He asked. I learned. She paused, her expression strange. Loneliness is not unique to Talians. Over the following days, their sessions continued. Each time, June absorbed more of Talian knowledge, while Lena gathered insights into human experience. The boundaries between teacher and student blurred as they exchanged knowledge. One night, as they worked late, June noticed Lena watching him with unusual intensity. Is something wrong? He asked. No, she replied. I am simply studying you. Studying me how? Your movements, your expressions, the way your mind works. She moved closer. In Talian culture, to observe another being with such focus is our highest form of respect. June felt a strange mixture of flattery and unease. On Earth, staring can make people uncomfortable. Is it making you uncomfortable? she asked directly. No, he admitted after a moment. Just noticed. Lena nodded, making a mental note. Cultural difference. But she continued watching him with the same intensity. That night, June awoke to find Lena standing at the foot of his bed, her luminous eyes visible in the darkness. Lena, he whispered, startled. What are you doing? Observing your sleep patterns, she said matter-of-factly. The human brain processes information differently during rest. It's fascinating. June sat up. Lena, on Earth, watching someone sleep without permission is considered intrusive. She tilted her head, processing this. Another cultural difference. I apologize. It's okay, he said, realizing she truly didn't understand. But maybe we should establish some boundaries. Boundaries, she repeated, as if testing the concept. Yes, this will be important for our continued work together. As she turned to leave, June realized something had changed between them. Lena wasn't just studying humanity anymore. She was studying him specifically, with an intensity that went beyond scientific curiosity. And despite himself, he found it strangely compelling. The mountain research station buzzed with unusual activity. Men in dark suits moved through the corridors, speaking in hushed tones with the facility director. From his office window, Jun watched them with growing unease. 3 black SUVs with government markings had arrived before dawn. They know something, he whispered to Lena, who stood invisible beside him, her cloaking technology active. Yes, she agreed, her voice barely audible. Your communications have been monitored. They detected energy signatures from my technology. Jun ran his hand through his hair, a nervous habit Lena had catalogued along with hundreds of other personal details about him. Over the past month, her focus on him had intensified beyond their research. She noticed everything. How he took his coffee. Black, no sugar. Which hand he used to write. Left, though he used tools with his right. How his breathing pattern changed when he was excited about a discovery. Quicker, shallower breaths. We need to leave, Jun said, quickly gathering research notes. If they find you. They will not, Lena stated with calm certainty. But yes, we should relocate. I have prepared for this possibility. That didn't surprise Jun. Lena prepared for everything concerning him. A sharp knock interrupted them. Dr. Park, National Security Agency. We need to speak with you immediately. Jun grabbed his pre-packed emergency bag from under his desk. My ship is concealed 2 kilometers north, Lena whispered. Meet me there after dark. She slipped out through the window as Jun opened his office door to face 2 stern-looking agents. Dr. Park, the taller one began, we have questions about unusual energy readings from this facility. Jun feigned confusion. Energy readings. I work with standard equipment. Our satellites detected non-terrestrial technology signatures. The second agent said bluntly. Where is it, Doctor? I have no idea what you're talking about, Jun replied, maintaining eye contact despite his racing heart. After hours of questioning, they let him return to his quarters, but placed him under surveillance. 2 agents stood outside his door. Jun knew this was his only chance. They hadn't arrested him yet, which meant they still lacked proof. When night fell, he slipped out through his bathroom window, using the maintenance ladder he'd secretly installed weeks earlier at Lena's suggestion. Her growing focus on his safety had seemed excessive then. Now he was grateful for her foresight. The mountain forest was dark and disorienting, but Jun had memorized the path to their emergency meeting point. What he hadn't anticipated was being followed. The beam of a flashlight cut through the trees behind him. Dr. Park, stop immediately. Jun ran faster, his breath coming in sharp bursts as branches whipped at his face. The sound of pursuit grew closer. Suddenly, a strange humming filled the air. A section of forest ahead seemed to shimmer, revealing Lena's small scout craft. The ramp lowered. Jun. Quickly, Lena called from inside. He sprinted toward the ship as a gunshot cracked through the night. Pain exploded in his shoulder. He stumbled but kept moving. Strong hands pulled him inside as the ramp closed behind him. The ship hummed to life, rising swiftly through the trees. "You're injured," Lena said, her purple eyes widening as she examined his bleeding shoulder. "Just a graze," Joan gasped, though the pain suggested otherwise. Lena moved with practiced efficiency, applying a strange gel to his wound. The bleeding stopped instantly, and the pain receded. "Talion healing compound," she explained. "You'll recover quickly." As they ascended into the night sky, June looked down at the research station growing smaller below them. "Everything I've worked for. Gone." "Not gone," Lena corrected, piloting the craft with one hand while the other remained on his uninjured shoulder. "Evolving. Your work continues with me." June glanced around the ship's interior, noting how the control panels were already labeled in both Talion and Korean. "You've been planning this for a while, haven't you?" Lena nodded without taking her eyes off the controls. "Since the third day of our meeting, I calculated an 87% probability that government forces would eventually detect my presence. And you didn't tell me. You would have worried unnecessarily. I prefer you focused and calm." That was when June truly began to understand the extent of Lena's attention to him. The ship contained a living space with human furnishings, food supplies he recognized, even books from his personal collection. "Lena," he asked carefully, "how much time have you spent preparing all this for me?" "All available time when you were sleeping or working alone," she answered matter-of-factly. "Approximately 340 Earth hours." The number stunned him. "That's like working full-time for a month." "Your comfort and safety are priorities," she said, as if this were the most natural thing in the world. They landed in a remote valley 300 miles from the research station. Lena had established a hidden base inside a mountain cave, concealed by technology that made it appear as solid rock from outside. Inside, Jum discovered a fully equipped laboratory alongside living quarters. Computers, scientific instruments, even clothes in his size. Everything he needed. "This is excessive," he said, examining the space. "Is it?" Lena seemed genuinely puzzled. "I observed what you required to work efficiently." "It's not about efficiency, Lena. This level of focus on me. On Earth, we might call it obsession." Lena tilted her head, processing this new concept. Obsession. An unhealthy preoccupation. She considered for a moment. "This term does not translate well to Talion understanding. Among my people, dedicated attention to another being is the highest form of respect." "But this goes beyond respect," June insisted, gesturing around them. "You've been watching me sleep, learning my habits, preparing escape plans without telling me. You've basically rebuilt my entire life here." "Yes," Lena agreed, not seeing the problem. "Your continued well-being ensures our work continues. Is this not logical?" June sat down, suddenly tired. "Logic isn't the issue. It's about personal boundaries, about privacy." Lena was silent for a long moment, her purple eyes studying him with that unsettling intensity. Finally, she spoke. "In Talion culture, when we find a mind of exceptional quality, we dedicate ourselves to understanding it completely. This is not considered invasive but honoring." She moved closer, her voice softer. "You are the first being in 73 years whose mind I find worthy of such attention. The last was my sister." The admission changed something in June's perspective. What he had interpreted as alien obsession was, perhaps, Lena's way of showing something deeper. A connection she had been without for longer than he had been alive. "I don't want to misinterpret your customs," he said carefully, "but humans need some personal space, even from those they're close to." "I will adjust," Lena promised. "But please understand, what you call obsession, my people call devotion. The difference matters." Before June could respond, an alarm sounded from the ship's communication panel. Lena moved quickly to check it. "Government search drones," she reported, 8 kilometers away and moving in this direction. The moment of cultural understanding would have to wait. Once again, they were being hunted. 3 months had passed since their escape from the research station. June and Lena now lived like nomads, never staying in one location more than a few days. They had traveled across mountains, deserts, and forests, always one step ahead of the government teams hunting them. Today they were in an abandoned mining facility deep in a remote canyon. Lena's small ship was hidden in a collapsed tunnel, covered with a camouflage field that made it invisible to satellites and drones. June sat at a makeshift desk, analyzing data on a Talian tablet. His beard had grown thick, and his once neat appearance had given way to the rough look of a fugitive. Despite their circumstances, his scientific work continued. Together, they had made remarkable progress combining human theoretical approaches with Talian practical knowledge. "They're getting closer," Lena said, entering the room after checking her security sensors. 3 different search teams within 50 kilometers. June nodded, rubbing his tired eyes. Which agency this time? Not just one. Military, intelligence services, and a private contractor. Lena's expression grew concerned. The private team has technology nearly advanced enough to detect my cloaking systems. How is that possible? Your tech is centuries beyond ours. Lena hesitated before answering. They've been studying the energy signatures from our previous locations, learning, adapting. Humans are remarkably resourceful. It's what we do best, Jum said with a grim smile. Adapt and overcome. An alert beeped from Lena's wrist device. She checked it quickly, her purple eyes widening. We need to move. Now. What is it? Aerial vehicles approaching. Military class. She began gathering their essential equipment. We have 18 minutes before they reach scanning range. They had practiced this drill many times. June quickly packed their research materials while Lena prepared the ship. Within 10 minutes, they were ready to leave. As they hurried toward the hidden ship, a deafening explosion rocked the canyon. The ground shook beneath them, and rocks tumbled from the canyon walls. They're using bunker-busting explosives, Lena said, pulling June behind a large boulder as debris rained down. They know we're here. How? Your cloaking technology has limitations, she finished. They've been studying us, June, like we've been studying them. Another explosion hit closer, sending a shockwave that knocked them both to the ground. June felt a sharp pain as his head struck stone. Warm blood trickled down his temple. Lena was at his side instantly, her cool fingers examining his wound. Minor laceration. You'll be fine. Her voice remained calm. But June had learned to read the subtle changes in her expression. She was worried. We can't reach the ship, he realized, looking at the collapsed tunnel entrance. No, Lena agreed. But I have contingencies. Of course she did. Lena always had plans within plans, especially when it came to his safety. She pressed a sequence on her wrist device, and a small compartment opened in her body armor, revealing a silver sphere the size of a golf ball. What is that? June asked. Protection, she replied simply. Stand close to me. The sound of helicopter rotors grew louder overhead. Spotlights swept the canyon floor, searching for them. Lena activated the sphere, which rose to hover between them. It pulsed once, twice, then expanded into a translucent bubble, enclosing them both. Amazing, June whispered, touching the inside of the bubble. It felt solid yet somehow flexible. Quantum shield, Lena explained. It will protect us from their weapons. As if on cue, gunfire erupted from above. Bullets struck the shield and disintegrated into harmless light particles. It converts kinetic energy to photons, she continued, her scientific explanation a calming ritual between them even in danger. A basic Talian defense mechanism. June watched in awe as more bullets hit the shield, creating beautiful patterns of light around them. Basic. What would advanced look like? For the first time in their long association, Lena smiled, a real smile that transformed her alien features into something almost human. Would you like to see? Without waiting for his answer, she pressed another sequence on her wrist device. The shield bubble began to rise, lifting them both off the ground. Below, soldiers in tactical gear emerged from the shadows, weapons raised. Their expressions changed from determination to shock as they witnessed the floating shield. "They can't harm us," Lena assured June as bullets continued to strike the bubble without effect. "But we need to move quickly." The bubble accelerated upward, past the helicopters whose pilots swerved frantically to avoid collision. Higher and higher they rose, until the canyon was just a dark line in the landscape below. "Where are we going?" June asked, his scientist's mind still processing the impossible technology surrounding him. "Somewhere they won't follow," Lena said cryptically. The bubble continued to rise until the curve of the earth became visible and the sky darkened to reveal stars. They were leaving the atmosphere. "Lena," June gasped, suddenly concerned. "I can't survive in space." "The shield maintains internal pressure and generates oxygen," she explained. "You are perfectly safe." As they ascended higher, June saw a larger shape emerging from the darkness. Lena's main vessel, far bigger and more impressive than the small scout craft they had been using. It looked like a massive crystal, faceted and beautiful, with sections that glowed with internal light. "My ship," Lena said, following his gaze. "My true ship. What you've seen until now was merely a transport pod." The shield bubble guided them toward an opening in the crystal vessel. Once inside, the bubble dissolved, leaving them standing in a vast chamber unlike anything June had ever imagined. Living technology pulsed around them, systems that seemed to grow from the walls, lighting that responded to their presence, surfaces that shifted and changed as they moved. "This is incredible," June breathed, turning slowly to take it all in. "Why didn't you bring us here sooner?" Lena's expression grew serious. "Because coming here changes everything. Once humans know that this level of technology exists in their solar system, they will never stop pursuing it." She touched his arm gently. "I was trying to protect both you and my last connection to my civilization." June understood then the magnitude of her trust in him. She had revealed her greatest secret, exposed her true capabilities, all to keep him safe. "What happens now?" he asked quietly. Lena moved to a control panel that seemed to form itself from the wall as she approached. "Now we have choices. We can leave this planet behind, explore the galaxy together, or we can try once more to make your people understand that cooperation would benefit everyone more than this endless pursuit." She looked at him intently. "But the decision must be yours, June. Your world, your people." The weight of that choice settled on him as Earth grew smaller in the viewing portal beside them. The crystalline ship hovered silently above Earth, invisible to human detection systems. Inside, June stood at the viewing portal, watching his home planet rotate slowly beneath them. After 3 days in orbit, he had made his decision. "I want to go back," he told Lena, who was adjusting controls at the main console. "We need to face this directly." Lena turned to study him, her purple eyes reflecting the blue glow of Earth. "The risk is significant. They will try to capture us both." "I know," June said, "but running forever isn't the answer. If we keep hiding, they'll keep hunting. The fear will grow. Eventually, they might see all alien contact as a threat, and you believe direct confrontation will change this?" Lena asked, her head tilted in that characteristic way that showed she was processing new information. "Not confrontation," June corrected. "Communication. On our terms, not theirs." Lena considered this for a long moment. During their time together, she had come to trust June's understanding of human nature. Her intense focus on him had evolved into something deeper, a partnership of minds across species barriers. "Where would this meeting occur?" she finally asked. "The old research facility where we first met," June replied. "It's symbolic. The place where human and Talion first connected." 2 days later, their plan was in motion. Using Talion communication technology, June broadcast a message to government channels worldwide, an invitation to a peaceful meeting, with terms and conditions. No weapons, limited representatives, full transparency. To Jun's surprise, they agreed. Perhaps the demonstration of Lena's technology during their escape had convinced them that military options were futile, or perhaps curiosity finally outweighed fear. The research station had been abandoned after their escape months ago. Now, as Lena's ship descended toward the familiar mountain valley, Jun saw vehicles approaching from all directions. Military trucks, government cars, even news vans kept at the perimeter. "Are you certain about this?" Lena asked one final time as they prepared to disembark. Jun nodded. "Completely." They emerged from the ship together, standing side by side as government representatives approached. Armed soldiers remained at a distance, as agreed, though their weapons were clearly visible. A stern-faced woman in a dark suit stepped forward. "Dr. Park, I'm Director Han from International Security Council. We have many questions for you." "I understand," Jun replied calmly. "And we're here to answer them. But first, I need to introduce you properly." He gestured to Lena. "This is Lena, last survivor of the Talian civilization, and the most important visitor Earth has ever received." Director Han's eyes narrowed as she studied the alien being. "Why have you come to our planet?" "Initially, to investigate an accidental signal," Lena answered in her melodious voice. "But I remained because I found something unexpected, a mind worthy of connection." She glanced at Jun. "After 73 years of solitude, I discovered that humans possess remarkable potential." The tension was thick as both sides assessed each other. Then, a military general pushed forward. "We've tracked your movements for months. You've been hiding advanced technology that could benefit, or threaten, our entire planet. Or you've been hunting an innocent visitor and a fellow human scientist," Jun countered, "forcing us into hiding rather than attempting peaceful contact." The argument might have escalated, but Lena suddenly moved forward, placing herself between Jun and the government representatives. "Your concern is understandable," she said, addressing everyone present. "Unknown technology represents potential threat, but consider what could be gained through cooperation rather than confrontation." She raised her hand, and a small device floated above her palm. It projected images into the air. Talian medical technology, environmental restoration systems, energy production methods far beyond Earth's capabilities. "These are just fragments of what I can share," Lena continued. "Knowledge that could help your world overcome its greatest challenges. But knowledge requires trust, and trust must be earned on both sides." A murmur ran through the assembled officials. Director Han stepped closer, her expression cautious but interested. "What exactly are you proposing?" Jun answered, "A collaborative research center, controlled exchange of technology." Lena offers knowledge that could advance human medicine, clean energy, and space travel by centuries. In return, she asks for sanctuary and respect for her autonomy. "And if we refuse?" the general asked bluntly. Lena's expression remained calm. "Then I will leave your solar system. My ship can travel beyond your reach in hours. The opportunity will be lost for both of us." The negotiation continued for hours, moving from the mountain clearing into the old research facility. Terms were drafted, arguments made, compromises reached. Throughout it all, Jun noticed how Lena kept positioning herself protectively near him, her attention focused on his well-being even as she negotiated humanity's first interspecies agreement. As night fell, the basic framework was established. A new international research center would be built, with Lena as both subject and teacher. Technology would be shared gradually, beginning with medical and environmental applications. Lena would retain control of her ship and freedom of movement. When the officials finally departed to formalize the agreement, Jun and Lena found themselves alone in his old laboratory, where they had first begun to understand each other months ago. "Do you think they will honor the agreement?" Lena asked. "Most will," Jun said honestly. "Some won't. Humans are complicated, but it's a better path than running or hiding." Lena moved closer, studying his face with her usual intensity. "You risked much today. Your freedom. Your safety. Why? Because some things are worth the risk, he replied simply. The connection between our species, the knowledge we can share, the future we might build. In Talian understanding, Lena said softly, what you did today was the highest form of respect, placing another's needs above your own safety. You showed respect not just for me, but for all of humanity's potential. June smiled. Maybe our species aren't so different after all. 1 week later, the new International Xenological Research Center opened in a secluded valley. The facility combined human and Talian design, practical human architecture enhanced with Talian living technology. At its center stood 2 connected laboratories, one adapted for each species' needs but sharing a common workspace. June now led the human research team, while Lena served as both subject and teacher. Together, they began the careful process of sharing knowledge across the species barrier. Sometimes, visiting scientists would comment on how intensely Lena watched June, how she seemed aware of his location and needs at all times. Doesn't it make you uncomfortable? A colleague once asked. The way she focuses on you. June just smiled. At first, yes. I interpreted it through human cultural understanding, as obsession or invasion of privacy. Now I understand it differently. He glanced toward Lena, who was demonstrating molecular manipulation to a group of wide-eyed physicists. In her culture, that level of attention is their highest form of respect and connection, he explained. What once seemed alien now feels like the greatest compliment anyone has ever paid me. As if sensing his thoughts, Lena looked up, her purple eyes meeting his across the room. In that moment of connection, both understood how far they had come, from fear and misunderstanding to the bridge between 2 worlds. The last Talian had found her purpose, and a solitary human had found his place in the universe. Together, they had transformed what might have been conflict into the greatest collaboration in human history. And Lena still watched June with the same intensity as always. But now, he watched her too.